Now let's continue with discussing with each right of the agent. And so all these rights are very important, guys, because each right can be asked as a separate MCQ or a case study. So you have to remember what is there in the each right. Let's discuss each of the right quickly. Okay. So first right is right of retain out of the sums received on principal's account. So the agent has the right to retain whatever sums which he has the expenses which he has put, or salaries or remuneration which he is legally bound to receive. Such expenses or salary or remuneration, whatever may be the case, whatever advances if he has incurred, that much amount he can retain from the principal's money which he has received on behalf of the principal. Whichever the money he has received, he can retain that much amount and give the rest of the amount to the principal. That's what the first right is saying. Right of retain out of sums received on principal's account. These are the sums which the agent can retain out of the money which he has received for the principal. What are these sums? All the monies which is due to himself in respect of the advances made, in respect of the expenses properly incurred by him conducting such business, and such remuneration as may be payable to him or acting as an agent. Like I said, all the monies which he has given in respect of the advances which he has made, all the expenses which he has incurred, and remuneration that he can retain. Next is right to remuneration. The agent, see, I'll just explain this in a very few sentences. You can read this on your own afterwards. What they are saying in this is in this paragraph is right to remuneration. The agent as the right normally is entitled to remuneration as per the contract which the between the principal and the agent. But in case there is no contract, then in such a case, the agent no, he can get the usual remuneration as per the customary in the business, as per the usual customs or trade in the business. However, if the agent has done a particular misconduct in a particular part of the business for the principal, for that part of the business for which he has conducted a misconduct, the remuneration will not be given to him by the principal. That's what they are saying in this paragraph. You can read it on your own, it's easy. I'll explain these two examples very fast. It is in a simple manner. I'll just give you the nutshell of what they are saying. What they're saying is, in this case, there was an agent who is hired by the principal to recover some money from some third person and to invest it. He recovered 1 lakh. So in this example, he recovered 1 lakh from the third person, which is C, and he invested it. And he was told by the principal to invest it in particular securities so that he will get good returns. But what agent did is he recovered the money from C 1 lakh. Okay, but he invested 90,000 on good securities, but rest of the 10,000 on securities which he ought to provide which ought to provide poor returns. So for the 10,000 which he has invested, no, and the A loses 2,000 out of that. That 10,000 and 2,000 he has to indemnify to the principal. That's what they're saying here. Nothing else. It is very simple example. The example 34 is also very simple. What they are saying is, here in this case, the agent did some misconduct while in which he did not recover the money only. He did not recover the money. So B is not entitled for remuneration for his services, and he must make good the loss. That's all. Okay. Next, what they are saying in the next right of the agent is agent's lien on principal's property. So the agent's lien on the principal's property. What they are saying in this case is, so you know what lien means. You would have studied in foundation itself. It is the right of the person who is providing services for someone else. No, here the agent he has the right to retain that, like the unpaid seller. He had lien over the goods for which the customer has ordered. No, in foundation you would have studied that. So the same thing will apply in this case also. Here the agent has lien over the principal's property means, here the agent, these are the conditions which are should be there for this right to exist. Okay. Okay, we'll discuss the conditions first, then we'll jump to what agent's lien, when it will not be there. Exceptions means when agent's lien can't be exercised. Okay, that also we'll study. So what are the conditions which should be there for the agent to exercise his right of lien? To exercise that, he should have lawfully be entitled to receive from the principal the sum of money which is by way of commission earned or disbursement made or services rendered in the proper execution of the business of agency. Or in the second condition, and this is under second condition is, the property over which the lien or the right which is to be exercised should belong to the principal, and it should have been received by the agent in his capacity. In his capacity as an agent, he should have received that during the course of his ordinary duties as an agent. And the agent obtains possession of the property by unlawful means he cannot exercise the particular lien. This is general points which you can remember. You can just read it once, you will be able to understand it very simply. Just I'm just doing, I want to cover the entire topic, that's why I don't want to leave out any part of the chapter. That's why I'm doing this. This you can study on your own itself. This is very simple. There is nothing unusual or something different is there in this concepts. Okay, the right is normal. What right you will have, the agent will have that right only they have given here. Okay, what is that agent, he has to get his money, it's not like he's doing charity here. So in order for him to get his remuneration, if the principal is not giving, then his agent, what he will do, he'll retain the goods or the papers or other property which belongs to the principal, in order to recover his commission, disbursement, or services in respect of which he has provided to the principal, or the expenses which he has incurred. For that, he will retain the goods. That's what. This is all simple concepts I've given, but this is very important. You might not remember this. This they may ask given in MCQ. The agent's right to lien is lost in the following cases. What are those cases where the agent can't exercise his right of lien? These are the exceptions to the above condition. When the possession of the property is lost, when the agent waives his right, waiver may arise out of agreement, express or implied, and agent's lien is subject to contract to contrary. Understood? These three conditions, if they are there, these three cases happen, means in these following cases, the agent can't exercise his right to lien. It is lost. Okay, where possession of property is lost, agent waives his right, or agent's lien is subject to contract to contrary. Understood? Next right. What is right? What is next right? See, I'll not spend too much time. I'll keep going fast because these are all simple things, like I said. So I don't want to spend too much time on simple concepts which you can read it on your own. So I'll cover it fast now. Right to indemnity. Right of indemnification for lawful acts means that the principal has to indemnify the agent for the lawful acts which he has done, and for which or against which all the consequences of lawful acts done in excess of his authority. See, we will discuss, we'll understand this through an example, you'll understand it better. What they're saying in this example is, I'll explain it very simply. Here there is A who is residing in Delhi. Okay, he appoints one of the person, his agent in Mumbai, as an agent to sell some merchandise. So B, what he did was he enters into contract with some third party to deliver the particular merchandise. As a result of his as a result of the principal's agreement, which the agent has entered with the principal. No, principal has agreed with the agent to give him some merchandise. So that agent thought that anyways the principal will give him the merchandise. So he thought he will enter into contract in advance. So here agent enters in contract with the third party in advance to deliver particular good. Later on, what happened is A fails to send the merchandise to B, and B faces litigation for non-performance. What will happen if principal did not provide the merchandise later on? Then the agent had to deliver the goods. That time the third party will sue the agent. So here principal is bound to protect B against the litigations and all the costs or expenses arising out of that. Okay, understood. This is the right of indemnity. Right to indemnity extends to all loss and expenses incurred by the agent in the conduct of the business. Okay, this is what they are saying. You can read it on your own. It's very simple. Okay. Example is also very simple. You can read it on your own. There's nothing out of the ordinary is there. Extraordinary. Okay. Next, what they're saying, right of indemnification against the acts done in good faith. Means if the agent has done a particular act which is in good faith, but he did not know that the consequences will be some, it will result in like some damage, loss, then in such a case, the principal have to protect the agent. Right of indemnification against acts done in good faith. What we'll understand it through an example. What they are saying in this example, we are the principal appoints one of this agent as his agent, and he directs him to sell certain goods, which in fact turned out to be not those belonging to principal. So the agent did not know that it did not belong to the principal, but he entered in the contract with third parties to supply the goods. But later on, they come to know that it does not belong to the principal, and means the agent had got the goods from principal, which he sold to the third party. No, the goods did not belong to the principal. So if third party sue, in such a case, third party will sue A, just like we said in the above case. No, non-performance of the contract because of the principal agent had to suffer no. Third party sued him. That time he had to protect against litigations and all the costs for non-performance. No. Same thing will apply here. But in this case, the example is different. That's all. Here, the goods which the principal is giving to his agent did not belong to the principal also. So in this case, the third party sue agent for the damage which they have suffered, A is entitled for reimbursement and indemnification for such act done in good faith. Understood. A is entitled for reimbursement and indemnification for such act done in good faith. So next, what they're saying is the agent is there. No, he cannot claim any reimbursement or indemnification for any loss, etc., arising out of the acts done by him, which are in violation of any penal laws of the country. Means if he has violated any CRPC, Criminal Code of Procedures, or any laws which is penal in nature. So, if he has violated such laws, then the agent can't claim that. The agent can't claim the law indemnification for such loss. Okay, that's what they're saying here. This is very easy, guys. I'm telling you, this is very easy. You can read it on your own. Next, coming to next point, non-liability of the employer of the agent to do a criminal act means here the employer has appointed means principal has appointed someone to do some illegal activity, which is criminal activity. Suppose to murder someone, the principal has appointed an agent, which is a criminal activity. So in such a case, if the agent performs his contract and does some murder, that time the principal had told him that he'll give him money for all the consequences which he'll suffer if he gets sued. But in that such a case, the principal no, if he rejects to give the money, if he says that I won't give you money after the agent has completed his part of the contract, then that time the agent can't sue principal for money because the contract itself is illegal. So that's what they're saying here. Non-liability of the employer means agent or that means principal of agent to do a criminal act. The example we see, what they're saying is A employs B to beat C and agrees. So A employs B to beat C, agrees to indemnify him against all consequences of the act. Like I said, he agreed that he'll indemnify him if there is any consequences which will arise from the agent beating up the third person C. So afterwards, B beats C and has to pay damages to C for doing so. But A is not liable to indemnify B for those damages. A is not liable to indemnify B for those damages. Understood what they're saying? So in such a case, if A rejects to give the money for such consequence, no, then B means the agent can't sue the principal for money. He need not indemnify the agent. So next example also same thing they're telling. Here in this case, what happens in example 38 is in newspaper, one of the suppose one person told A told B who is in newspaper, who is newspaper publisher to publish something against some person C. And A told him that B will indemnify all the expenses which will incur as a consequence. And so he put some defamation or something like that, abused the third person in the newspaper. But later on, what happened is that's what they're saying. Libel means to put something which is uh, to abuse or to put something which is troubling or which will defame. Okay, which is to defame the third person, to defame the third person. That is called libel. Okay, that is called libel. So in this case, the proprietor means the publisher who had agreed to put that what do we call to defame the C, no, defame third person C, and the principal A had agreed to give him the costs. Later on, if he rejects and says that he won't indemnify, the B cannot sue the principal for money or the expenses for the damages which he will incur as a consequence because of his actions. Okay, you understood what I'm saying? If you don't understand, see, after seeing this video, it might be a bit confusing for you, but just go and read it once. You'll be able to understand it even clearer. Because here I'm trying to go fast a little bit. That's why I want to cover things, everything. That's why all the examples. That's why I'm going bit little bit faster. Okay. Then next right, what they are saying here is right to compensation for injury caused by the principal's neglect. Means if there is any right to compensation for the injury caused by the principal's neglect. Suppose, see in example, this example is very important. This through this example you will be able to understand. This is a very simple example. See here, A is there, he employs B for bricklaying for a building, then for a house. Then later on, what happened is principal he only puts up a scaffolding himself, but scaffolding is unskillfully put, means it was not put properly. So what happens is it falls and it injures the agent, means B is injured, or he, as a consequence he got hurt. So A must compensate B for that, because he was injured because of the principal's neglect, because of the principal's neglect or want of the skill. Okay, because of that the agent have to be indemnified because of the principal's actions. Okay, every principal owes to his agent the duty of care and not to expose him to unreasonable risks. This sentence is very important. You can just remember it and you will be able to write. Okay, these rights are very simple, guys. Okay, just read it once. You have to know at least what is there in each right. If you just read only the heading of what is there in the rights, no, you the headings you have to remember, because if it directly comes what are the rights of the agent, if they ask you for 4 marks, then you will have to write the points. If they ask you, the suppose the inside they chose, suppose this agent's lien, what are the exceptions to agent's lien where you can't exercise the right. If they ask some question like that, now what you will do if you have not studied what is there in the inside? That's why you have to study even the inside parts of the particular points. Okay, and these are very simple. The so many things we had studied from the start of the chapter. This is nothing compared to that. Okay. Next, coming to principal's liability to third parties. Principal's liability to third parties. So, what is the principal's liability to third parties? Means, we'll discuss it one point by point. Okay, I'll go directly to the points. I don't want to spend too much time on this paragraph. Nothing is there in this paragraph. It is very simple what they're saying. Okay, you will be able to understand even if you read. What they're saying is, agent does all acts on behalf of the principal and incurs no personal liability. The liability remains that of the principal. Okay, and because of this, there is no privity of contract and passing of consideration between the agent and third party. There is no privity of contract between the agent and third party. And agent also cannot personally enforce the contracts entered into by him on behalf of the principal, because he is entering because of the principal. Means principal himself is acting. No, I told. We have read that maxim now. That is principal. If they, it is assumed that the principal himself is acting, if he is acting through an agent. We studied that in the maxim in the starting of the chapter. Now same thing what they're saying here. The agent will not be personally be liable. The principal will be liable for all the acts which the agent has done on behalf of him with the third parties. Okay. Next, what they're saying in this point is principal's liability for the acts of the agent. So, whatever the act which the agent has done, which is within the scope of his authority, this is the important word, which is within the scope of his authority, it should be within the scope of authority, within the scope of his authority, should be authorized to do such acts. Now, will be authorized to do by the, will be authorized to do a particular act by the principal. If he does any other act which is beyond his the authorization, beyond his authority, for such acts, principal will not be liable. Keep it in mind. He'll be principal will be liable only for such acts of the agent which he has done within his authority. And in this case, the contracts entered into through an agent, obligations arising from the acts done by the agent may be enforced in the same manner as same legal consequences as if they had been entered into and acts were done by the principal in person, as if they were done by the principal himself, like I said. Okay. In these examples, they have explained you even better what they're saying in this example. Where A buys goods from B, okay, knowing that he is an agent for their sale. So A is there a particular third party buys goods from B. He knows that he is an agent of some particular person, okay, but they don't know that who is the principal. They're not knowing who is the principal. B's principal, no, he is the person entitled to claim from A the price of the goods, and A cannot, in this suit by the principal, set off against that claim a debt due to himself from B. You understood what they are saying in these two sentences. They are saying that the third person A who bought the goods from B, then they know that he is agent of someone, but they don't know who is the principal. So the principal who is there, no, the principal can claim the price of the goods which the agent has sold to the person A from him. So in this example, what they're saying is the principal is there, no, agent's principal. He can claim the price of the goods from the third party, that is, which is A. But A cannot, in a suit by the principal, set off against that claim a debt due to himself from B. Which means that if there is a debt due from B, no, that debt which is due from B by, to the third person A, that A he cannot set off such claim against the price of the goods. This is bit confusing if I say third person be agent principal. No, I'll make it even simpler for you. What is happening is A is there. No, in this case A is not a principal or not a agent. In this case, the A is third party. Okay, third party, he buys goods from B. Okay, B is the agent. They know that B is an agent. Okay, the third party know that B is an agent, but they don't know who is the principal of this agent. They don't know who is the principal. But later on, what happens is the person who is the principal of this agent, let's assume B is the principal, he can claim the price of the goods from A, from the third party. But that the third party, no, the third party had purchased goods from B, and B had certain debts with A. Means B had B had to give certain money which he owed to A, the third person. But what A can do is he cannot set off the price which he paid for the goods for to B for the debts of the B. You understood? See, not say A as third person, I'll say A, okay. A is there, no, A. It's a B who sold him the goods. B had certain debts which he had to give to A. But A did not recover such debts. He did not recover such debts. Instead, he bought the goods and he's saying that he'll pay for the goods which belong to the principal and he'll set off the debts. Instead of paying for the goods, he'll say he'll set off the debts. Oh, he's saying that he will not even pay for the goods. He's saying that he'll set off for the debt. So the principal, he can claim the price of the goods from A, and A cannot set off such price of the goods for the debts which he is owed by B. Okay, understood. Now you will be able to understand. If you don't understand, please see the example. Once you will be able to understand it even better. You read it on your own once. You'll be able to understand it better. Next example 41, what they're saying is here in this case, A being a B's agent with authority to receive money on his behalf receives from C sum of money due to B. C is discharged of his obligations to pay some in the question to B. This is very simple example. What they are saying in this example is there is a person who is A, is the B's agent. Okay, A is agent only here. He has the authority to receive the money on his behalf. He has the authority to receive money on his behalf and he receives from C such money. So if the third person gives money to a principal's agent, it's assumed that he has given the money to principal himself. So that's what they're saying here. So you see the person who gave money to the principal's agent, it is assumed that he gave the money to principal himself and is discharged of his obligations to pay the sum. Understood? Next, what they're saying in this is next liability, principal's liability, when agent exceeds authority. First, we have studied that if he was within the scope of his authority. If he has exceeded his authority, in such case, what happens? If we can separate that part which is within his authority and that part which is outside his authority, then we'll bind him. The principal will be bound only for such acts which is within his authority. Understood? That's what we have to do. We have to separate that act of the agent which is within the authority, that act of the agent which is outside his authority. For that act which is within the authority, for that acts, those acts only the principal will be bound. That's what they're saying here. That's what they're saying here. You can read it on your own once and you'll be able to understand the important keywords. So in these there are no particular important keywords here. Understanding is what matters in these points. Okay, You have to understand what is there, and you can use certain words like authority, separate, and these words, beyond this authority. You have to reuse on these technical terms on your own. It's very simple. What they're saying in this example is A, being the owner of a ship and cargo, authorizes B to procure an insurance of 4 lakhs on the ship. Remember, he's saying only for the ship, to get the ship insured to B. Here B, what he does, he gets a policy of 4 lakhs on the ship. He did the right thing, first part. Another for like sum on cargo, another 4 lakhs for the cargo as well. But the agent or the principal did not tell him to get an insurance for even the cargo here. So A is bound to pay the premium for the policy on the ship, but not premium for the policy on the cargo. In this case, we can separate two contracts separately, one for the ship, one for cargo. Cargo part, principal won't be liable. For the ship which has got insured, so for that part, he will be liable. Next, if it is not separable, next case will be where the principal is not bound when excess of the agent's authority is not separable. Means if we can't separate the agent's authority, which is beyond his authority, which he has acted, we can't separate for which he is within his authority and for which he is not within his authority. For those, then if we can't separate them, we'll assume that he has acted beyond the authority, and the principal has the right to reject the entire contract itself, entire act of the agent. That's what they are saying here. Here in this example, what they are saying is A authorizes B to buy 500 sheep for him, only 500 sheep. But what B did is he bought sheep as well as 200 lambs for 6 lakhs. So in this case, he may repudiate the whole transaction. Repudiate means to cancel the whole transaction. He may reject the entire transaction. Same example, little bit similar. Okay, A authorizes B to draw bills to 6 and to an extent of 200 each. But what he did was he drew the name of A for 1000 each. So he may repudiate the whole transaction in this case. You have to remember these examples, because if you don't remember this, you might confuse this with one which is not separable. But it is simple examples are there. I think if you read it once, you'll be able to understand it easily. But this next part is very, very important. This exception is very, very important. You have to read this properly. Exception: liability of principal inducing belief that agents unauthorized acts were authorized, section 237. What they are saying here is the liability of the principal inducing belief that the agent's unauthorized acts were authorized. Means that if the principal says that unauthorized act, even unauthorized act which the agent has done, if he acts in such a way, the principal is bound by such acts and obligations if he has, by his words or conduct, induced such third parties to believe that such acts and obligations were within the scope of the agent's authority. If the agent has acts in such a way that even those acts which is beyond his authority, which the principal has acted, is within his authority, then he is liable in such a case. In these cases, what happened is if he was not within his authority, the principal told that I'll reject the entire contract. In this case, he told that I'll separate it. But in this exception, what they're saying is even if he has done an act which is beyond his authority, principal says that I will accept it. By his words or by his conduct, he is saying to other parties, it was within his authority only. I had only told him to do that such particular act to the agent. That's what he's saying by his manners, by his behavior, by his words. So in such a case, what will be the examples which they have given here? So A consigns goods to B for sale and gives him instructions not to sell under fixed price. We had read the similar example, not similar, same example in one of the modes. Which one was that? Agent for estoppel. Agent of estoppel, we had read same example. The person who had given the consigned the goods to his agent to sell for a fixed price, but the agent entered into a contract with the third person for a price which is below that. But the third person which had entered into contact with the agent, no, we did not know he had entered it in a good faith. I had even told you in that time that you can write additional sentences saying that C, being the ignorant of B's instruction, enters into a contract with B to buy the goods at a price lower than reserved price. Here, C is the person who is ignorant of the B's instructions or the agent's instructions. So I told you that time that you can write two sentences. C, who had done it in a good faith. He did not know that what is the B's instructions, what the principal had told B, the agent. He did not know that. How will we, the third party, know what the principal had told his agent? We just want to purchase particular product. So C had purchased the goods for price which is lower than the price fixed by the principal. So here he is ignorant. So he's done it in good faith. So, but still, A can't say that I had told my agent to sell it for this fixed price. He had sold it for below the fixed price. I won't give you the product. You can't say that. A is bound by the contract because of his he's not is stopped, means he can't deny the contract now. We had read it in agent for estoppel. You can see, go see that part of the video. In that modes of the agency is there, no? In part one you can see this agent by estoppel. I explained it very carefully, very thoroughly. I've explained it. You will be able to understand it even better. Next example, what they're saying in example 46. Example 46, in this example, what they're saying is A interests B with the negotiable instruments endorsed in blank. B sells them to C in violation of the private orders from A. The sale is still good, okay? Understood. That's what they are saying in this example. It's very simple example, but you have to read this paragraph properly. Okay, this entire paragraph is very important. You have to read this properly. It is very important from exam point of view, because the case study might come from this part. I think a case study will come. So please read this properly. Next, coming to next principals liabilities to third parties. Next, third point is consequences of notice given to the agent. Means if there is any notice or information which is obtained by the agent, provided it be given or obtained in the course of his business transacted by him for the principal, in such a case will have same legal consequence as if it had been given or obtained by principal. Like we told in the first point, no, the acts of the agent which is within his authority. For such acts, the principal, it's assumed that principal only has acted, not the agent who is acting. Which is assumed that principal himself is acting instead of the agent. Okay, the agent is only acting for the principal. So it's like principal is the main person who is acting. Same thing they are saying here. The consequences of notice or information is given to obtained by the agent in his course of his doing his business or transaction, which is for the principal. Which will have the same legal consequence as if the principal had only told him, principal had given him permission to do such particular act. Okay, this example will make it even clearer. What they're saying in this example is A is employed by B to buy from C certain goods of which C is the apparent owner. Understood. Here A is employed by means A is the agent and B is the principal. So he told his principal to buy from C certain goods and he buys them accordingly. In the course of the treaty or the sale, in course of treaty for the sale, A learns that the goods really belong to D, but B is ignorant of that fact. This sentence is very important. That's why I'm reading this example. I'm explaining to reading it, because what they're saying in this is here the A is there no agent. He learns that the goods does not belong to the C only, it belongs to D. But the principal is there no, he doesn't know that, he is ignorant of such fact. So B is not entitled to set off the debt owing to him from C against the price of the goods. So since the goods does not belong to C, for the price which he has given for to C for buying the goods, no. Instead of giving the price, he will say that I set off the debts which you have to give. I'll purchase the goods from you. Here he can't set off such price of the goods for the debts which is recoverable from C, because the principal, no, he doesn't know that the goods does not belong to the C. It belongs to D, some other person. Here C does not own the goods itself. So, thus what they are saying is this is a very important line. The knowledge of the agent is treated as the knowledge of the principal. So, in this case, whatever the knowledge of the agent, it is treated as if it is the knowledge of the principal. Understood what they're saying in this? It is a very important example from the exam point of view. You have to, if you want to see it twice, see it twice. If you want to read it twice, read it twice. But please see this example and go. It is very important from the exam point of view, if you ask me. Okay. So Coming to next point, what they are saying here in this case is principal's liability for the agent's fraud, misrepresentation, or thwart. So when principal will be liable in case the agent has done fraud, misrepresentation, or thwart, he will be liable if it is within his authority. Everywhere the sentence will come. If the agent has done fraud or misrepresentation or fraud, which is done while he is acting for the principal, and such acting which he is doing no, such act which he is doing no, if it is within his authority, within the authority which the principal has given him, then in such a case, the agent will be responsible. In such a case, the agent will be responsible. In such a case, sorry, my mistake. In such a case, the principal will be responsible. In such a case, the principal will be liable for such acts of fraud, which is misrepresentation, fraud which the agent has done. Okay, that's what they're saying here. Misrepresentation, frauds which are committed in the course of his acting, in the course of the business for the principal, no, that agent is acting, have the same effect on the agreements made by such agents as if such misrepresentation or frauds had been made or committed by the principals, but misrepresentations made or frauds committed by the agents in the matters which do not fall within their authority do not affect their principals. If it falls within their authority, then principal will be liable. If it is beyond his authority, which the agent is doing, then principal won't be liable. Always remember, when the act the agent is doing, if it is within his authority, principal will be liable. If it is beyond his authority, whatever the act he has done, whatever consequences will happen from that act, the agent will be liable, principal won't be liable. Please keep that in mind while you're reading this. Okay. Next example 48, A being that's what they explained it to an example. A being B's agent means B is the principal for sale of the goods, induces C to buy them by misrepresentation, which he was not authorized by B to make. So here the agent, what did he know? By misrepresentation, he sold goods to C, but the principal had not given him the authority to do that, to sell the goods. Okay, to sell the goods, so which he was not authorized by B to make. The contract is voidable between B and C at the option of C. At the option of C, it is voidable. In next example, what they are saying is A, the captain of the B ship, signs bills of lading without having received on board the goods mentioned there in the bill. So the bills of lading are void as between B and the pretended consignor. The goods itself had not come to the ship. So this the agent is there, no, the captain of the principal ship. He signs the bill of lading without receiving the goods on board. So the bill of lading right now is void as between the principal and the pretended consignor. Okay. So next is personal liability of the agent to the third parties. This is also very important from the exam point of view. So you have to read this carefully now. Personal liability of the agent to a third parties. We had read that principal's liability to other parties till now. Now we will read the agent's responsibility to third parties, personal liability of the agent to third parties. When is that? The agent is generally cannot personally enforce or is not bound by the contracts on behalf of the principal, because the agent is acting for the principal, so he is not he cannot enforce the contracts, he cannot be held liable for the contract which he has entered for the principal. Okay, which is within his authority. Always keep in mind, within the authority. Okay. So, in this case, the agent cannot personally enforce contracts entered into by him on behalf of his principal, nor is he personally be bound by them. Like I said, he can neither sue nor be sued on contracts made by him on his principal's behalf. On his principal's behalf. Next, we will read the exceptions, in which case the agent will be responsible to third parties personally. What are those exceptions in which the agent is presumed to have agreed to be personally be bound, where the contract is made by the agent for sale or purchase of the goods for merchant resident abroad or foreign principal. If it is foreign principal or merchant resident abroad, he is merchant resident but he is abroad. Okay. when an agent has entered into contract for sale or purchase of such goods on behalf of the principal resident abroad, or the presumption is that in such a case, if it is a foreign principal, in such a case, the presumption is that the agent undertakes to be personally liable for the performance of this contract. Understood. If it is a case where the agent is acting for a principal who is a foreign principal or is a merchant resident abroad, in such a case, the principal can be held personally be liable because he is a foreigner. So the third party who is dealing with the agent, they will say that we will we will claim the whatever the money which is there for the goods which you have purchased from you only. We don't know the foreign principal who is there. So we'll claim the money from you. That's what the third party will say. You will be held personally liable for that. That's what they'll say. Next is that where the agent does not disclose the name of his principal or undisclosed principal. The principal is unnamed. In case where the principal his name is not disclosed, undisclosed principal, the agent will be personally be liable. That's what they're saying. The entire paragraph, same thing. You can read it on your own. It's easy. Where is a non-existent or incompetent principal? The principal is non-existent. If he is not existing, the agent is acting for a principal who is not there or is incompetent, means who is a minor. In such a case, the agent will be held personally be liable. That's what they have given in this example. The agent acts for a person who is a minor. In such a case, the agent will become personally be liable. That's what you have to write. Okay. The pretended agent. Pretended agent. But one more thing we have to keep in mind here is, see, if the person who is dealing with the agent they know that the other party knows that already knows that principal is a minor. If they know that the principal is a minor and they still contracting with the agent, then that time the agent will not become personally liable, and even the principal won't become liable. That time they can't sue only because they knew that the principal is a minor, but still the third party entered into contract with the agent. So that time the nobody will be liable. Both of them will be free, discharged. Okay. So you have to read each example carefully. Okay. Otherwise, you will miss out on these key points. These points, no, I say what they will do is in these two sentences, what is given here? No, these two sentences. There may not be where other party already knows that the principal is a minor. They'll form a case study and they'll give you question on these two sentences itself. So you have to read each example carefully. Now, next what they're saying is pretended agent. If the agent pretends but he is not an actual agent, he is pretending to be an agent of principal but he is not actually an agent, then principal does not rectify the act, means he does not ratify the act, he does not rectify, he does not rectify. It means that where the principal does not ratify the act but disowns it, the pretended agent will be himself liable. Where the pretended agent is there, no pretended agent. Suppose it's like what we call the agency by estoppel. In agency by estoppel, that's what happened now. What happened is he's acting to be an agent of particular principal, but he's not an agent. So pretend agent, the time he will be held personally liable if the principal says I do not approve or ratify such an act which is done by the agent. Okay. So next is when the agent exceeds his authority. When the agent exceeds his authority, misleads the person, believing that agent he has requisite authority in doing the act, the agent can be made personally liable for breach of authority. Understood. These are the cases where the agent will be personally be liable to the third parties. So these points are very very important. This entire what do you call this entire point is very important. This 11th point is very very important because the institute has asked so many questions from this point, like so many questions has come. It's very very important from exam point of view. Please mark it as very very important. You have to read it from the module itself, this entire paragraph, this entire 11 point from the module itself you have to read because it is very very important from the exam point of view. I've explained it the best I can. So now you have to, it's up to you. You have to read it each point carefully and each this example also carefully. And one more thing, what you have to remember is you have to remember these points or headings as it is given in this each points. You can't write your own headings. You have to write the headings which is given here for the person who is validating to give you marks. Otherwise, you won't give you marks if you don't write the headings which is given here. The inside things you can change. The inside things you can change however you want. The inside things. But what we have to write is even these keywords you have to write like this. When the agent exceeds his authority, misleads the third person, believing that the agent has requisite authority in doing that, the agent can be made personally be liable for the breach of warranty of authority. These keywords, no, you have to remember at least one or two, three keywords and make your own sentences you can write. But these headings, main headings, you have to write as it is. Okay. So coming to next part of the chapter, the rights of the third parties. Now we read the liability of principal, liability of the agent. Now the rights of the third parties. The rights of the parties to a contract made by undisclosed agent. If the agent, undisclosed agent, if he has done a contract with the third parties, if the agent makes a contract with a person who neither knows nor he has reason to suspect that he is an agent, this principal may require the performance of the contract, but the other contracting party as against the principal, same right as he would have had as against the agent if the agent had been the principal. So you understood what they're saying here. Here they are saying that if an agent makes a contract with a person who neither knows nor has reason to suspect that he is the agent, and his principal may require the performance of the contract, but the other contracting party means the third person as against the principal will have the same right as he would have against the agent if the agent had been the principal. Okay. That's what they're saying here. If you don't understand, you can read it once. You will be able to understand. It's very simple sentence. I've explained it. That if the third party will become, I will act as the principal in such a case. That's what they're saying. They will act as a principal towards the agent. That's what they're saying here. If the principal discloses himself before the contract is completed, if he discloses himself before the contract is completed, the other contracting party may refuse to fulfill the contract. If the principal discloses himself before the contract is completed, the other party may refuse to fulfill the contract if he can show that if he had known who was the principal in the contract, or if he had known that the agent was not the principal, he would not have entered into the contract. This paragraph is a little bit complicated for you guys to understand. So, some of you, if through this example, you will be able to understand this entire two paragraphs very easily. See, okay. I've tried to explain it however possible I can. I'll tell you what they have told in these two paragraphs through this example. So, in this example, what happens is there is person SS who bought for himself a ticket of an IPL match at Wankhede Stadium through AB because on personal grounds, stadium management would not have issued the ticket to SS. So what he did is he says he bought a ticket for IPL match through another person who is AB because the personal grounds of the stadium no they would not have issued the ticket to directly to SS. So stadium management may repudiate the contract and refuse SS to enter the stadium. So later on, when the match is happening, IPL match, that day of the match, when the personnel or the security of the Wankhede Stadium saw who is the person, real person who is using the ticket and is entering, no, that time the management may cancel the contract and they may refuse access to enter the stadium, but they may allow AB to enter the stadium. Okay. See, the SS may be getting the tickets through AB because the personnel or security of the stadium won't give him. But if AB himself agent is going, they will allow. But if it is SS, no, he was anyways not allowed. If on the day when the match is happening, if the management sees him, or they may cancel, they may repudiate the contract, and may refuse him from entering the stadium. That's what they're saying. That's what these two paragraphs are saying. Rights of the parties to a contract made by undisclosed agent. Okay, you read it once, you'll understand it easily. Or you just read this example, then afterwards you read these two paragraphs, you'll understand it much better. That's what I'm saying. Okay, now I don't have time to explain it even more than this. Okay, Okay, you'll understand it's very simple. Okay, like I said, first read the example, then later on go to this paragraphs. You will be able to understand very easily. Next, what they're saying in this second point is performance of the contract with agent supposed to be principal. So where one man makes a contract with another, neither knowing nor having a reasonable ground to suspect that the other is an agent principal. If he requires the performance of the contract, can only obtain this performance subject to the rights and obligations subsisting between the agent and the other party to the contract. So this entire paragraph I read, you will be thinking what they're saying. So we'll understand it similar to the previous point through an example, because this example makes it clearer to understand what they are saying in this paragraph. But you have to read what they are saying in this paragraph, because you have to know how to write the sentence in sentences without using the example. Okay, because they might ask you a question directly, but usually case study will come. You don't have to remember this that much. Just read the example properly what they're saying here. Here A is there who owes 50,000 rupees to B, and he sells 1 lakh rupees worth of rice to B. A is acting as an agent for C in the transaction, but B has no knowledge nor reasonable ground of suspicion that such is the case. You understood what is happening? A is there now who owes 50,000 rupees to B. So he sells 1 lakh rupees worth of rice to B. He already was 50,000 to be. So what he did was he sells 1 lakh worth of rice to P. A is there, no, he's acting as an agent of C in the transaction. But B, the person to whom he owes the money, he doesn't know, he has no knowledge or reasonable grounds of suspicion that such is the case. But A, who is selling him the rice of 1 lakh, no, the business which he is doing, the deal which he is doing as an agent, not he's not doing is personally, he's doing it as an agent. So in such a case, C cannot compel B to take the rice without allowing him to set off his debt. So in such a case, C, the person who is the principal now, A is acting as the agent for C, C is the principal now. C cannot compel B to take the rice without allowing him to set off A's debt. So he cannot compel B to take the rice. Means he cannot compel the third party who is the B to take the rice without allowing him to set off A's debt. Without allowing him to set off A's debt means here the B cannot set off A's debt, because A is the rice which he is selling, which does not belong to A. He is selling as an agent, as a principal, as an agent to the principal who is the C. So C cannot compel now B to take the rice without allowing him to set off the A's debt. Means he cannot say that B, give me that price of the rice and you take it. He cannot compel him. Okay, that's what they're saying here. Now you read this, you'll understand it even better. Okay, you now understood this example. Now you go and read this paragraph, you'll understand it much better the first time when you read this. Okay, I'll go to next point, because I don't have time to explain the each and everything. But I'll try to explain all these 3 points in one nutshell after reading this third point. Okay, what they're saying in this third point: the option to third persons sue the agent or the principal, means person has the option to sue either the agent or the principal in these cases. Now, what are those cases? Right of person dealing with the agent personally liable, means in cases where the agent is personally liable, a person who is dealing with him may hold either him or the principal or both of them liable. For example, in this case, A enters into a contract with B to sell him 100 bales of cotton, but afterwards discovers that B was acting as the agent of her C. So A may sue both B or C or both for the price of the cotton. So A, who is the third person who sold goods to B, who is the agent of C, but he did not know that he is the agent of C. So now the person who sold him the goods, now he can sue even the agent or the principal or both for the price of the goods he has sold. That's what they're saying here. Next point, what they're saying, that is very simple. You would have understood. The consequence of inducing the agent or the principal to act on belief that the principal or the agent will be held exclusively liable. So what they're saying is, we'll read the paragraph, we'll understand it. When a person who has made a contract with an agent induces the agent to act upon the belief that the principal only will be held liable, or induces the principal to act upon belief that the agent only will be liable, he cannot afterwards hold liable the agent or principal respectively. You understood what they are saying here? Here, the person what who is doing now, who is person who has made a contract with the agent, induces the agent to act upon the belief that suppose A has entered into contract with B. B is the agent of C. He'll tell the B that the agent B, the A will tell B that you can act upon this, you can do this dealing, or you can do this business. Since the principal only will be held liable, he will tell. Or later on, he tells that principal goes to principal and says that agent will be held liable, you need not be held liable, principal will tell. So in such a case, both of them will not be liable. Even the agent or the principal will be liable because of consequence of inducing the agent or the principal to act on belief that the principal or agent will be held exclusively liable. In such a case, the third person can't sue both of them. This is like an exception to the exception. Like means here the third person can't sue either principal or the agent. Understood? That's what they're saying here. So we have understood all these 3 points. Now coming to the last part of this chapter, this is very important from the exam point of view because so many times they've asked questions from this part of the chapter: revocation of the authority, termination of agency. So finally, we have done the contract of agency. Now we are ending it with the termination of the agency. Means we are cancelling the contract. Termination means putting an end to the legal relationship between the principal and agent. That's what they're saying, section 201. So what are the modes of termination? We read what are the modes of agency. Now we are reading the modes of termination. So modes of termination. Termination. We read what are the modes of agency. Now we are reading what are the modes of termination. So modes of termination is revocation, renunciation by the agent, or completion of business, death of the principal or agent, insolvency of principal, or principal or agent becoming unsound mind, or expiry of time. In these cases, the contract of agency will come to an end. That's what they're saying here. So these are the main points. We'll read what is inside in each point, and each point is very important from exam point of view because each point can be asked a separate question or a case study or an MCQ. The ICAI can ask however they want, and they have asked it so many times. You won't be able to tell how many times they have asked these points. Okay, so please focus this on this part at least. It is very important from exam point. So what is they telling? Revocation. Revocation means to cancel law. So what they're saying is agency may be terminated. Agency may be terminated by the principal revoking the authority of the agent. Means principal may revoke the authority given to his agent at any time before the authority has been exercised so as to bind the principal. So the principal himself is revocating, cancelling the agreement before the principal has done any particular business for which he was appointed. However, the principal cannot revoke the authority to his agent after the authority has been partly exercised so far as regards such acts or obligations arise for the acts already done in the agency. So, like I said, he can revoke his authority. There is no ban on principal revoking his authority or cutting the contract because in contract it would have mentioned that he can revoke at any time. He can cancel the contract at any time, but he can cancel. He can revoke the authority anytime. But before the agent has exercised his authority so as to bind the principal, if if the agent has exercised his authority, even partly if he has exercised, in such a case, the principal cannot revoke the authority because in such a case, the acts or obligation has arise for the acts already done in the agency. So, example will make it even clearer. So, here in this case, what happens is A authorizes B to buy 1,000 bales of cotton on account of A to pay A for it out of A's money remaining in B's hands. B buys 1,000 bales of cotton in his own name so as to make himself personally be liable for the price. A cannot revoke B's authority so far as regards the payment of the cotton. So what they're saying is, in this example, A is authorizing B to buy 1,000 bales of cotton on account of A, and to pay for it through the A's money, which the B has. B buys 1,000 bales of cotton in his own name, so as to make himself personally be liable for the price. So A cannot revoke B's authority so far as regards the payment of cotton. So he cannot revoke the authority so far as regards the payment of the cotton, because for that much amount of cotton which he has bought, no, principal's authority, because principal had authorized him, so he cannot revoke B's authority right now because he has already excised. Now, even though the BA has purchased in his own name so as to make himself personally liable, still he cannot revoke his authority. Why? Because he had authorized him to buy 1,000 bales of cotton on account of A, but he purchased the 1,000 bales of cotton in his own name and has to make himself personally be liable for the price because he did the particular business for A. So A cannot revoke B's authority so far as regards the payment for the cotton. Understood. It's very simple what they have told. It is very simple. Revocation is very simple. It means the principal can cancel the contract only if the agent has not done any act before he had entered into particular business transaction or anything. If he had entered, no, that time the agent principal can't say, I will revoke the contract now. I won't pay the money. Can't say, because that person will get damaged. No, he will incur loss. So we can't say that. That's what they are saying. In the example 55, A authorizes B to buy thousands bales of cotton on account of A to pay out of A's money remaining in B's hand. He buys it cotton in A's name and so as not to render himself personally liable for the price. A can revoke B's authority to pay for the cotton because here he has bought 1,000 bales of cotton in A's name. No, so in such a case, he can revoke B's authority to pay for the cotton. B need not pay for that. So as not to render himself personally liable as entered in his no. So A can revoke his authority, B's authority, and say, you need not work as my agent right now. You go off. I'll let you off. So A himself can pay for the 1,000 bales of cotton now. No, since because the person B no has entered into contract for buy 1,000 bales in A's name, principal's name. So if he cuts off the agent, he can do the business on his own now. So that's what they're trying to tell you. Okay, understood. Understood. So A can revoke B's authority to pay for cotton. See what is the difference between these two examples is first example, he entered in his own name to make himself personally liable. So now we cannot revoke B's authority as regards payment of content. Here, in this case, he entered in A's name so as to not render himself personally liable for the price. So A can revoke B's authority to pay for the cotton. He can personally become liable. So that's what they're saying in there. So next point, what they're saying is compensation for revocation by principal. If he premature revocation of the agency without sufficient cause, principal must compensate the agent for such revocation. It's simple. If you have cancelled the contract without any cause, then you have to compensate the agent. Notice of revocation means before cancelling the contract, he has to give notice. Principal, having justification to do so, revokes the authority. You must have reasonable notice such revocation to the agent. Otherwise, he can be held liable to pay the compensation for any damage caused to the agent. Means before cancelling the contract, the principal must give a notice to the agent, and he should have a justifiable reason. He should have reasonable cause for that. Otherwise, you will be held liable for compensation for the damage which he has caused to the agent. So next point is revocation renunciation may be expressed or implied. Revocation of the agency may be expressed or implied in the conduct of the principal. Means cancellation of the agency it may be in writing or maybe by action. So in the next example, it will tell you about the implied revocation of B's authority. Implied revocation we'll talk about. A empowers B to let A's house. Let A's house. Afterwards, A lets it himself. So he lets it himself. He implied revocation of B's authority. He's saying that I don't want you to work for me as an agent now. So it's by implication. See, he told B to give the particular property on rent or to let A's house to let out to give it on rent. But afterwards, A himself came to that house. Lets it himself means he himself enter the house. Means A is telling by implying by his actions, is saying to B that I don't require your services anymore. Is revocation of B's authority. Is implied revocating, implied by action. That's what they are saying. Okay. Next, this is also this entire thing is very important. Revocation. Very simple. You can understand it on your own. Anyways, next what they're saying is renunciation by the agent. Okay. In this, the told renunciation can also be expressed or implied. Remember, okay. Renunciation of an agent. Renounce means an agent may renounce the business of the agency in the same manner which the principal as the right of revocation. Renounce means I'll tell I'm renouncing my job. Means I don't want to work anymore. The renunciation means I'm giving up. I don't want to do this anymore. I'm giving up this agency. That's what the agent can also renunciate from the business of agency. But for that also you'll be charged in first place. If for that also you'll be liable, you'll have to compensate the principal for that. You have reasonable justification for renunciating as well. In first place, if the agency is for fixed period, the agent would have to compensate the principal for any premature renunciation without cause. It will not. For that also you'll have to compensate the principal for premature renunciation. Secondly, a reasonable notice, just like revocation, has to give renunciation is necessary. Notice of renunciation. Length of the notice is to be determined by the same principles by which the revocation by the principal. The agent renounces without proper notice, you have to make good damage, which is resulting in the principal. Same thing, revocation renunciation is similar. Renunciation will be done by the agent, revocation will be done by the principal. That's all. Okay. That's what the difference is. Main difference. Rest of the things you can read on your own that they has to compensate if it is done without sufficient cause and has to give reasonable notice, and if the renounces without any proper notice, he has to make good the loss. The same thing will apply to the revocation as well. Okay. Next, what they are saying is completion of the business. If the business is completed, why we should continue the contract of agency now? So agency is automatically and by operation of law, it is terminated when its business is completed. So, for example, authority of agent appointed to sell goods is to be excisable when the sale is completed. I appointed you to do this particular business of sale. After sale, the job is over, your contract of agency is done. So, completion of business. Death or insanity. If the agency is determined automatically, and death or insanity means if the agent or principal he dies off, if he goes pagal, insane. Insane means insanity means the time the contract of agency comes to an end. The winding up of the company or the dissolution of partnership has same effect. Act done by an agent before death would remain binding. So this is very important because any act which is done by the agent before his death no would be binding still. That's what they're saying. Even in case of partnership, we are did the same. In case of winding up, the company cannot escape its liabilities. The partners cannot escape their liabilities. The agent cannot escape his liabilities. Even after he had died, the representatives will have to give the debts which for the act agent was liable. Okay. The principal's insolvency means agency ends on the principal being educated as insolvent. You all should be knowing what insolvent means. Means he has went bankrupt. He does not have money anymore to do the business or to do this continue this business of agency. Now in the expiry of time. They all these points, so it's like general points applicable everywhere. See, agency obviously in contract no, whenever the contract ends, these can be the points, general points. How the contract will end, one party must cancel or the other party must cancel, or they must die, or some expiry of time or completion of this contract for which we have entered. These are all general points. You can remember it very easily, you can write it even in your exams easily. This is very important revocation of the revocation of agency or termination of agency. Next is expiry of time, where an agent has been appointed for a particular term. Expiration of the terms puts an end to the agency. Means whether the purpose for the agency has been accomplished or not, agency comes to an automatic end of the expiry of the term. Means suppose you and me enter into a contract of agency for a particular 1 year. Okay, for 1 year we entered. For a particular year or 1 year or 2 years. After the end of 1 year, the agency for which you entered to do that particular business, if it did not work out or if we did that business or not, the agency will come to end after that 1 year. Means the contract was only for 1 year. That's what on expiry of time. Next, when the agency is irrevocable, this was as so many times. Like can say it's so important that it can come even now in next May 23 exams also they can ask you this when the agency is irrevocable. So important. It is very important from the exam point of view. This is very important from the exam point of view. When the agency is irrevocable, means it can't be cancelled. Agent is personally interested in subject matter of the agency becomes irrevocable. Each and every word in this particular sentence is very important. This entire paragraph is very important. When the agency is irrevocable means it cannot be cancelled. Irrevocable means cancelled. Irrevocable means can't be cancelled. So when I read from this paragraph only, because this entire paragraph, this entire wording should fit into your brain, because it is very important from the exam point of view. The agent is personally interested in subject matter of the agency. The agency becomes irrevocable. When the agent is personally interested in the subject matter of the agency becomes irrevocable. Section 202 states that where the agent has himself an interest in the property which forms the subject matter of the agency cannot, in the absence of the express contract, be terminated to the prejudice of such interest. This entire para is very important from the exam point of view. Whenever they pose a question on a agency, irrevocable agency, you have to write this paragraph as it is with the same points, saying that the agent is personally interested in subject matter of the agency becomes irrevocable, where the agent as himself has interest in the property which forms subject matter of the agency cannot be revoked in the absence of express contract, be terminated to prejudice of such interest. These examples is very important. We'll read it now. The example 57, A gives authority to B to sell A's land. A gives his authority to his agent B to sell A's land, means principal's land, to pay himself out of the proceeds, the debts due to him from A. A cannot revoke this authority, nor can it be terminated by his insanity or death. Even if the person who is a principal, he goes insane or he dies of no, still that time the person who is the agent can sell the property and he can recover his debt and also keep the proceeds, for which commission which is which for which he has to get the commission which he has to get, he can keep that, and also debts which was owed to him, he can keep it. The principal cannot revoke his authority. Neither it cannot be terminated by death or insanity. Nothing can affect this contract. Means it will not be affected by anything. That's what they are trying to tell you. This is very important example. Next example is A consigns 1,000 bales of cotton to B, who has made advances to him on this cotton, and desires B to sell the cotton and to repay himself out of the price the amount of his own advances. A cannot revoke this authority, nor it is terminated by death or insanity, because the agent no has given the advances on his own for the principal's business. And here, even the principal is saying that you sell this particular product or the item which is 1,000 bales of cotton goods on your own, and you can retain the price. You can retain that amount of money which is which I should pay for you, that commission, brokerage, or that for the advances which you have given for that particular goods. That's what they are saying here. These two examples are very important for exam point of view. You read it twice, thrice, how many times you ever want, but read this properly and go to your exam, because this can come for 5 marks. I'm telling you, this can come for 5 marks. It has come already like 4 5 times in your exams. It is very important from the exam point of view. So I have said it like so many times already. It's up to you what you will do now. Next, effects of termination. So once the contract of agency is terminated, what will happen when termination of agent's authority takes effect as to agent as to third persons? So termination of authority of an agent does not, so far as regards the agent, take effect before it becomes known to him, or so far as regards third persons before it becomes known to them. Means before it becomes known to him, or so far as regards third person before it becomes known to them. This example will make it clear. So what they're saying is A directs B to sell goods for him. A agrees to give B 5% commission on the price fetched by the goods. Afterwards, A by letter revokes B's authority, and B, after the letter is sent, before he receives it, he sells the goods for 1 lakh. So the sale is binding on A, and B is entitled to 5,000 commission because it did not get communicated to B. This is very simple example, you can write on your own. Next example is what they are saying is A at Chennai by letter directs B to sell for him some cotton lying in the warehouse in Mumbai. Afterwards, by letter revokes his authority to sell, directs B to send the cotton to Chennai itself. B, after receiving the second letter, enters into contact with C, who knows of the first letter but not of the second. Here, in this case, what happens is the person with whom the agent has entered into contact, that person doesn't know of the second letter. That he has been contract has been revoked or rejected. Now we should send it to Chennai itself. We should not sell it. But the third person, what he did was the C, the who is the third person who knows of first letter but does not know of the second for sale to him of the cotton. C pays B the money with which B absconds and C's payment is good as against A. So you understood what they're saying. Here, what happens is C is there, no, he pays the B the money, and B he absconds means he escapes off. And so now C's payment is good as against A means it's assumed that he has sold his goods to C. Since he has given his money to the A's agent, so it's as what the agent does if he runs off with the money, it's principal's headache, it's his fate. No, the third party won't be liable. He will say, "Give me my goods because I have given the money." If your agent has run off with the money which I have given to you, it's assumed that you are acting on principal agent was acting on your behalf. So it's like you are only acting. So if he runs off with your money, it's your headache and it's your fate. For me, my goods I want because I paid the goods, money for the goods. That's what the C will say. Understood what they're saying here. It's very simple examples, but simple example, but you have to read it a little bit carefully. Certain points. Okay. Next example is A directs B is agent to pay certain money to C, but A dies and D takes out probate to his will. B, after A's death, before hearing of it, pays the money to C. A payment is good as against D, the executor. So these examples, what they are saying is very easy. What they are saying, but you have to read it very carefully. Here, A is directs B is agent, pay certain sum of money to C, but A dies of the principal and D takes out a probate to his will. So in such a case, B after A's death, no, in this case the agent, but before hearing of it, before he hears of the A's death, he pays the money to C for which he was appointed. The payment is good as against D, means the executor. Means it's assumed that the D, the executor, has given the money. Okay, understood. That's what they're saying. It's very simple. Next point is agent's duty. Agent's duty on termination of agency by principal's death or insanity. Agent's duty on termination of agency by principal's death or insanity means where the agency is terminated by principal's death or insanity. We read no by principal's death or insanity. So check is agent's duty. Agency is terminated by principal's death or in becoming unsound mind, but the agent is bound to take on behalf of the representatives of his late principal all reasonable steps for protection and preservation of the interest entrusted to him. So that is one simple point. Next is termination of subagent's authority. Means subagent we had read no subagent who is appointed by original agent. Termination of subagent's authority. Termination of the authority of the agent causes termination of the subagent as well. All the subagents are terminated by the termination of the original agent. So that completes our chapter. I have thought all the points have made you revise all the points. I've even done thorough, proper understanding by revision. I've given you this each and everything of this chapter. Now you guys have to study properly. If you want to see these videos twice, it's okay, see this twice, but please understand the concepts properly and score entire complete marks in these chapters, because these chapters are very scoring and very simple chapters. These chapters you have to score the entire marks, complete marks. If it comes for 10 marks, if it comes for 12 marks, you have to score the entire 10 to 12 marks. Means at least maximum marks which the evaluator is giving, that much marks you have to score in this. Because if you can't score in these chapters, the theory, it will be tricky in big chapters. Then you won't be able to do anything. In these chapters, easy questions will come directly. They will ask one point from revocation only, or from irrevocable point they will ask So you have to study this properly and you have to go. Next in next video I'll discuss the test your knowledge. Next video I'll put on test your knowledge questions. I'll discuss the question along with the answers. So see that as well. And I'll also put one video on RTP MTP. I'll put one video on RTP, discussion of RTP MTP of last three attempts of agency chapter, which I will be preparing. So with that video also you can see and you can prepare well, so that it will be like revising all the questions, case studies which they have asked till now from this chapter. I'll be doing that for the other laws as well, other chapters as well. Okay, in the other laws chapter. So with that in mind, I'll end this video. Thank you guys. Please subscribe and like the channel. Subscribe to the channel and like the video. Okay, and good luck, study well.